should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. Preferably in a residential area.
The following thoughts on Hoppe Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Hoppe Hour.
What up? What's happening? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe. And you may have heard her throughout the years as the official news person for the Bob and Tom Show. She now has her own podcast. On the phone line is Kristi Lee. How's it going?
Hey, Ryan. It's going great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I used to listen to you guys when you were on the Bob and Tom Show on 100.7 in Illinois. So it's very cool to have you on.
Oh, well, I'm honored to be on. I think Bob did the show once with you, didn't he?
He did do the show about 6 months ago, and what's weird about that was he wasn't sure if he wanted to leave the show or not, so at that point he wanted to keep going. So it's kind of cool to have him on before he retired, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that retirement came to a surprise to a lot of us, including myself, I'll have to admit.
So you guys found out when he did the Hall of Fame speech, right?
Well, we were told, Chick and I were told before that, but that day, like at 3 in the afternoon, and then he went up and announced to the world at the Hall of Fame speech later that night, yes. But we just found out that afternoon.
What's it like
yes.
when you found out? How weird was it? Because you've been working with him for so long. What's that like when he says, I'm going to be quitting the show? Like, what's the first thought that went to your mind?
Well, the saddest part about it was he did not get to tell us. Somebody else told us. And so he was not real happy about that. He wanted to be the one to talk to us, and he didn't get that opportunity. Hearing it from another person even I was shocked. I mean, we were, a month from the show being over for the year, and no one had said anything, so I just assumed that Bob was coming back. And to hear it, with just 4 weeks of the show left in the year, it was pretty startling. It was pretty upsetting for me.
Did you see it happening at all? Were there any signs, like with his vacations? Did you see the writing on the wall at all?
Well, yeah, he'd been talking about wanting to retire. That's why the last 2 years he was working 3 months on, 3 months off, 3 months on, 3 months off, but he had not led us to believe that wasn't going to just continue another year or two. I mean, no one had even approached the subject. So I'm happy for Bob. Don't get me wrong. I'm ecstatic. He's in a really good place. We've done a great podcast together. If you'd like to check that out at KristiLeeNews.com or on iTunes or Stitcher, it's Kristi Lee Uninterrupted. Bob talks a little bit about that situation and about retirement, but he's moved on. He's great. I've moved on. I'm great, and it's all good. It's all good, Ryan.
How hard was it for you to quit the show? What was the ultimate reasoning?
Well, I think when Bob announced he was retiring, it basically gets down to this. I had been in that room for over 28 years off and on, and with Bob not there, those 3 months got a little rough for me, and I don't know why. I can't explain it. It just was a little hard, and I also, in this business, you'll know, Ryan, I had only a 3-month non-compete, which is unheard of these days, and the reason I had one was because my contract had just kind of rolled over for 12 years. Nobody had really paid any attention to it, and to be quite honest with you, I didn't know I had a 3 month. I thought it was 6 months or a year. I had no idea. So when someone approached me and said, "Well, you realize you only have a 3-month non-compete?" I sat there for a minute and I thought, maybe it's time for me to kind of open the door and see what's on the other side. Because let's face it, I'm not getting any younger, and I have things I still wanted to do. And I thought maybe I should just take a look at this. So I spent most of my vacation, those 2 weeks on break, and really did some soul searching and talked to some of my closest friends, and I really felt like this was my time to step away and try to do something new.
Out of all the 28 years on and off with the Bob and Tom Show, this will probably be hard to answer, but what are some of your favorite moments that come to your mind?
Some of my favorite moments are, we used to do this great thing on April Fool's Day called Catch It and Keep It. I don't know if you ever heard that particular bit. And it was so fun. We would stage this event on April Fool's Day, and it would be outside the radio station. There was a loading dock that had kind of a higher, a ramp that went down, but the actual building was a little bit higher. So there was some elevation, is what I'm trying to say. And we would fake throwing things off of the roof of Preminger's department store, and if you caught it, you could keep it. And we had things like dishwashers, and the classic one was when we threw the turtle off of the top of the roof of Preminger's from the pet store in the shopping center called Puppies and Pussies. And obviously we didn't throw a real turtle. We threw a construction hard hat, but it sounds like a turtle when it hits the ground. And we got so many complaints. People thought it was real. We threw an old TV that cracked. I mean, it was just hysterical. I know I'm not doing it justice, but it was just so funny and ridiculous. And the fact that people really thought we were doing these real objects just really got to me. That's one of my highlights.
Why do you think people thought that was real? I can't believe someone would think you guys actually threw a turtle off,
Right. I mean, come on, it's the Bob and Tom show. Give us a break. Some other highlights for me over the years were our live day shows, when we would bring bands in to perform live. And in fact, in the infancy days, we even did all of the commercials live with our band, and that was just so much fun. We would use Tom owns the Static Shack, which is a recording studio, and we would just fill it up with musicians, and we would write copy, and it was just a full bore, all live show. Everything was live, and it was fun. Those were some of my best memories. And then, of course, the guests, like getting the opportunity to meet Peter Frampton, and one of my favorite guests of all time, Dolly Parton. Couldn't have been sweeter. The most unbelievably gracious, wonderful human being. I'm trying to think if these are just some of there's millions of stories. I mean, every day was a good memory. There was never a day where I walked out of there and went, ugh, God, I hate my job. Never. I never felt that way, ever. To this day, I loved every minute of it. Every minute of it.
What about when you got up in the morning? Were you a morning person, or did you get used to it?
You never get used to those hours, but I am one of these people that was blessed with, when I'm up, I'm up. That alarm goes off, I'm up, and I am up. I would jump out of bed and get to work. I would get up around 4, and I'd be at work a little after 5. And, I would go until about 10:30, 11 at work, and then I usually did a couple of things because I live a little bit farther from the radio station than the other guys. So I would do a couple of things, what I call in town, and then I would come home. Now, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, did I crash? Yeah. Everyone knew not to call me between 2 and 2:30. It was nap time because that was before the kids get home from school, and it was kind of my quiet time. But I'll tell you, since January 1st, I haven't had one nap. I sleep till normal, like 6:20 now, 6:30. It's great.
That's awesome because, for 28 years you had to get up every morning. I bet you are loving sleeping in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just that extra 2 or 2.5 hours just makes all the difference in the world. It really does. And I still feel like I'm going to bed at the same time, around 10 o'clock at night. I haven't extended my nights much. But, getting up at 6:30 makes a big difference, huge difference in life. Quality of life around here has improved in that way. Money might be a little tighter, but that's okay. We'll make it. It'll be all right.
Now, it has to be weird. For 28 years, you were getting up every morning and going on the Bob and Tom show. Has it been different for you not getting up each day? Like the first day that you weren't working with them, how weird was it not being there at 7:20 in the morning? You know what I mean?
No, it was weird. It was weird. It's still kind of weird. To be honest with you, I look at the clock a lot, and I'll look down and I'll go, wow, I'd still be at work, and look at all the things I've done. You know what I mean? I do that occasionally. I'll tell you, Ryan, though, I have been so busy being unemployed, 10 times busier than I was when I was working there. I can't even tell you. And it's not necessarily, as you know, doing a podcast, it's not necessarily like I'm getting paid to do this work. It's out of love that I do it. And, my podcast isn't like yours. I'm not award-winning, and I'm in my infancy. I don't have sponsors yet, so I'm really busting my butt to try to get some great shows together to keep people listening and keep those downloads coming so that someday maybe this will become, something that supports my family, which would be great. Until then, I don't care. I love doing it. I know you probably do too. It gets in your blood, doesn't it? It's amazing.
It's weird how radio is so much fun to just talk into the mic and say what you feel. You know what I mean? That's what I love most about it, is just expressing what's on your mind.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that I have to maybe do this on a daily basis. So I may start, hopefully in the near future, I'm going to start doing a daily early morning podcast, like start getting up a little bit earlier and putting together, 5 to 8 minutes of news that you may have missed, or just something to get people to work in the morning. They have just a little hit of Kristi Lee. That would be nice every day.
For people that haven't heard your podcast, what is your approach to it? Why should they tune in?
My approach to the podcast is I have a pretty simple template. I usually start it with a monologue, and then a quick monologue that goes into a couple of news stories, and I select funny news stories that would probably go with the guest or the subject matter of that interview. And then I roll into an interview. So far, it's a very wide range of guests. I don't want to pigeonhole myself as just doing comedians. Obviously, that's a natural for me because I have so many comedic friends, and I love comedy. But I also want to inform people on subjects that they may not know anything about. I did a really fun podcast with our former mayor in Indianapolis, Mayor Greg Ballard, and I had people tweeting me like, why would I want to listen to somebody else's former mayor? Because he's got a great story. I find that everybody's got a story, everybody. They may not have a name you recognize, but by golly, they got a story, and most of them are damn interesting. And I like finding those people, and I like finding those stories, kind of like Ira Glass, This American Life kind of thing. I mean, obviously, I don't have that NPR background, and those followers, but I do try to, introduce people to people that mean something to me, or the subject matter means something to me, or that I think might be interesting. And I have done, obviously, Bob, and one of our co-writers, Whit Grayson, who also is one of the Love brothers and did a lot of character voices, Sid Gurney. Bob and Whit and I sat down in Bob's basement. This was my first episode that was released, and it's 80 minutes worth of reminiscing and old bits, and it's a gem. I wish, believe me, I get so many compliments. And yes, I wish I could do everyone with Bob. Bob's retired. I haven't. Bob has promised to do more. I think we are going to be doing one with Bob and his wife, Becky. They have an Airstream trailer that they've been taking around the country, and so we're going to set up in the Junebug, is what they call it, and we're going to do a little Junebug Journey podcast and talk about some of their adventures. That's coming up. Also, I have interviewed Dr. Will Miller. Dr. Will is the person that's responsible for me doing a podcast because he said, you have to do this. And I go, Will, I just don't have it in me. He goes, you don't know because you've never tried it. You've got to try this. You've got to do this. You've got to do this. And he pushed and pushed and pushed me, and I can't thank him enough. I'm also featured on drwill.com. He has some great podcasts on his website with some great podcasters. There's a group of about 7 or 8 of us that have all kinds of wide-ranging topics. So it's, as you know, it's kind of, now that I'm into it, I've done more podcasts this week than I didn't even know existed, and it's like our own little community, and I kind of like it. I really like it.
But even though it's a podcast and you can hear it on demand, is there a part of you that would ever want to get back on radio just because of the live effect and people that can call in? Do you miss that aspect?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if the right opportunity came up, I certainly wouldn't say no. But until that happens, or if it doesn't happen, I'm moving on. I'm moving ahead and doing some other things. And somebody told me you just throw a bunch of darts and see what sticks. And that's kind of what I'm doing. This podcast is my biggest dart. I'm hoping it's a bullseye, but I've got other things working. I just did a really fun thing today. I spent 4 hours with an up-and-coming female race car driver in the IMSA circuit. Her name is Christina Nielsen. Google her. She's adorable. She's from Denmark, and she just won Sebring, the 12 hours of Sebring. But she's just a little bit uncomfortable with media still because she's only 24, and so we spent 4 hours doing some mock interviews and press conferences and just getting her feeling a little bit more comfortable in front of the microphone. And it was so much fun. Would I like to do more of that? Absolutely. If I could find the opportunities, I would love to do something like that. So, it's just, like I said before, I've never had an opportunity to do my own thing. And I'm finding that I enjoy doing a lot of my own things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you this, too, because you've been a person that's always reported the news on the Bob and Tom show and now on your show. Are you finding it a bit harder to find news to talk about? Because if I go on the front page of the Huffington Post, all I see is Trump and the Kardashians. And if you go on Fox News or MSNBC, they're basically reporting the same thing. Is it just me, or do you see this thing where it's harder to find original news,
Yeah, it's harder. Do you use Fark at all? Fark.com is a great source. Drew Curtis is one of my best buddies. His people do an amazing job of putting together the great stories every day. I really recommend that website. And I'll tell you what, I also do a lot of is I use Daily Mail out of London.
Yes, that's a great site.
Yeah, they don't have the same laws that we have covering, journalism. So you can get some pretty juicy stuff
it's amazing.
Out of the UK.
That's where I get my news. I love that website. It's the best.
Yeah, it's one of the best, and that was kind of my secret there for a long time. And I'll retweet them a lot. I retweet Huffington Post. Huffington Post, though, this was one of the things that we kind of got into some creative differences about. Tom has this fascination with body parts, but like flagellants and butts, and I don't find that interesting. Maybe that's just me. And so he was always searching for those stories. I don't know what he had in his Google alerts. I would not want to know. But some of the things that he would bring in there, I'm like, where did you find this? But the Huffington Post can kind of go on that raw side a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it gets too edgy. It seems forced. It's like, look at this pic of Kim Kardashian bent over. Like, How the hell is this news? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I never, ever, ever, ever do a Kardashian story. I don't think I've ever. I mean, if I have, it's been, because it's some secondary thing that we were talking about, maybe Robert Kardashian or an OJ thing, or you know what I mean? I've just never, because that was never allowed in the studio. Tom did not want to know anything about them. And I have 2 daughters, and I don't really want them growing up thinking this is how you make a living by doing that. What do? They don't do anything. They don't do anything.
It's embarrassing. Like, girls that are 12 to 18 are looking up to these talentless imbeciles, and no one says anything because we're nice about it, because we keep reporting on it. They literally bring nothing to the table besides looks. Nothing.
I totally agree with you, Ryan, and it's not, we're responsible. I'm not saying the journalists are responsible, yes, but some of them are, because they know they'll get a hit on it. And if people would just, and it's starting, that obviously Cocktails with Courtney didn't last 3 months. So, people are starting to get sick of them, and their flame will burn out. It's just a matter of time. But you're right. I don't want my 13 and 17-year-old daughters looking up to somebody like that. And we talk about it all the time. They're very, networks or social media savvy. They're all, Snapchat, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. And we talk about it all the time. And they get it. They don't want anything to do with her. I asked about 5 Seconds of Summer was this big, I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I've heard of them, yeah.
They were a band. They were a band that were real big with my age group kids a couple of summers ago. And it may have been even last summer, but I said something a couple of days ago, and I said, what happened to 5 Seconds of Summer? I never hear you talk about them. And she goes, oh, my God, they did this cover on Rolling Stone where they were all naked, and it was just so obnoxious and gross. And she goes, all of my friends were like, we don't want anything to do with them. So, they have got some sense. Not all kids are being, they're not all imbeciles. So that made me feel like, all right, you aren't getting to us, media people.
Yeah, I think it's sad that the media is doing this new trend. I'm 22 years old, and I would like to think I'm sort of smarter than some of the kids my age that don't know what they're doing with their lives. But I feel like the media is doing this thing where they're just making everybody in my generation seem like a bunch of partiers that go to dance shows and take ecstasy. It's like every generation had their flaws. I just think how they keep on ripping on the millennials is just so nauseating. It's not original journalism, you know?
Yeah, it's not. We talked about this today with Christina. You know, it's journalism isn't what journalism was when I was coming up. You know, back then you had your 6, questions, who, what, where, when, why, how, and you researched a story, then you went to print with it, or you went on the air with it, or now the story's usually written before somebody's even done anything. People write a headline and then want to write a story to make the headline that they've written seem real, and it's all about doing it faster than anybody else. I want to break this story. It doesn't matter if it's right. They don't care.
Exactly.
No one cares if it's right anymore. They just want to be the first to do it, and that is going to bite people in the butt. And it's starting. You cannot. It's just unprofessional, and it's doing more harm than good, I feel.
And this was a brilliant point that Gary Meyer brought up on his podcast. He said the term breaking news isn't even original anymore. Like if you're in Chicago, WGN News will say breaking news, someone shot on the South Side. It's like everything now is breaking news. If you look at like the CNN Twitter or the breaking news Twitter, it's like, to me, when you think of breaking news, I think of 9/11 or if Obama were to get shot or whoever wins. I mean, you can use it more often, but I feel like half the time breaking news, it's just news that's just out, It's not like, oh my God, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because we have to be bigger and louder and more, oh my gosh, take your breath away than the guy down the street, because the guy down the street, or the guy that's on Twitter, because everybody's getting their news on Twitter. So that's why everybody has to scream out and go, look at me, look at me, look at me. The way the whole face of news has changed so much. It really is disheartening. My oldest is real involved in journalism. She's probably going to be an editor of her yearbook. And, we were talking about it the other day at dinner because, she was going, well, maybe I want to pursue journalism. And I said, I don't know that we're going to have any journalists left anymore. It's a very sad state of affairs. I go, right now people are just making up stuff and throwing it out there, and if people believe it, they believe it. It's really scary. It's very scary.
To me, TMZ ruined everything, but they also changed the game. It's just you have to break things 24/7. You know what I mean? It's this new age of ADHD where you have to have things all the time, and I think it's watering down everything overall.
Well, yeah, and Gawker and all those, yeah. It's just it's a sad state of affairs. Let's talk about something happy.
Speaking of a thing that's happy, what is your take on Trump? Everyone's favorite Trump. Is this the worst election you've ever seen?
Oh, you really put me on the spot. This is my least favorite subject, is politics. In answer to your question, yeah, it's kind of scary. I mean, if you're a Trump fan, go for it. If you're a Bernie fan, go for it. I'm not going to pick somebody. That's not what I'm here for. I'll tell you, though, the Constitution wasn't set up for somebody to be able to buy their way into the White House.
I know.
And the Constitution wasn't set up so that the media savvy or, who do we have to – here we are back to the media. Who are we blaming for this? The media gives Donald Trump all of this free press. He spends nothing with, the other candidates are busting their butts spending all this money. The guy that has the most money has to spend nothing because everybody's running to him because he's the Donald, he's the story. Everybody wants to see him. At least that's what the media thinks. But who wants to go into politics anymore? I brought this up with Kostaki Economopoulos, one of my favorite comics, who's very politically savvy. He's got a political science master's degree. And I think we got into a Twitter battle about it. And I said, who would want to go into politics with the current situation? It wouldn't be a sane person wouldn't want to do that to themselves. I mean, it's scary where the political arena is going, I think. That's my own personal opinion. Like I said, I know very little about politics. I admit that up front.
Now, speaking about another job that a lot of people might not want to go into in 2016, where do you see radio going? Like, where is it headed?
Oh, I don't think you're going to lose terrestrial radio. Radio's always going to be there. It's still comfort. I mean, I still listen to the radio every day, especially in my car. I think that's a big radio place. Cars aren't going anywhere. I know everybody says we can download, our car. Once again, I bring up my kids. My kids, very rarely they'll grab a phone and Bluetooth and download, and play off of whatever, Spotify or Pandora, whatever they play their music on. 9.5 times out of 10, we're on the radio. I have satellite radio as well, and so we have a lot to choose from, but they still go to the radio. I still go to the radio. I love Elvis Duran. He's one of my favorite jocks.
He's great.
And, I love listening to him in the morning. When I met him at the Broadcasting Awards in November in Chicago, I was like a starstruck kid. And when he goes, "Oh, my God, I'm so happy to meet you," I go, "You're happy to meet me?" He goes, "Oh, Kristi, we stole like half of our show from you guys." It was so flattering. And, I love listening to him. So I still love listening to good radio. There are plenty of shows out there that are still kicking it and doing it and loving every minute of it. And I think there's always going to be room for that. This whole podcasting thing is all, many people have been doing this 5-8 years, and I've got people calling, "I've never heard of this podcasting thing. Is it brand new?" Well, no, but you have to do a little work to get it. You know what I'm saying? You don't get in your car and turn it on and flip a button and it's there. So we are kind of a lazy society, and I think that is going to keep, terrestrial radio still around. It's still very viable. People like hearing people talk to them in their car and stuff. And yes, I think there's room for everything. Podcasting, I think it's internet radio stations. I think it's amazing. The options are endless, and that's the same way with, televised media. Look how many options you have on TV now. And I think it's the same for audio, for internet, for radio, for satellite radio, for HD radio. There's just so many options. I think the key is how do you market it and get it to people so that they know it's accessible and easy. Does that make sense?
You said it perfectly. So I want to ask you this. Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years? Do you want to be a part of a show? Do you want to have your own show? Do you want to see if this podcast thing can get big? What's your plan, or what do you want to see happen?
Here's another thing you don't know about me. I've never really had a plan. I was just one of these people that I'm kind of roll with the flow, and whatever happens, happens. And believe me, I've had many people in my life yell at me for this. You need to set goals, sit down and write down. I just have never been one of those people. In 5 years, I would like to see myself happy and satisfied in whatever work I'm doing. And so far, since I have been out of high school, and during high school, I started my radio career when I was 15. I have done what I've loved, and I don't see that ending now. I can't imagine why, after all these years, it's going to just dry up and go away. I'm not going to let that happen. That's not my style. That is not who I am. So in 5 years, I hope to be doing this and more. Maybe it is my own show. I'd love to have a shot at my own radio show, my show. I think it'd be a blast.
I think you could do it. I think you would do real well at having your own show. I like your personality a lot.
Oh, thank you. Well, hopefully somebody will, give me a call, or I'll find. Who knows? Who knows? I am open to any and all suggestions at this point. But, the podcast is what I have now, and it's near and dear to my heart. And I wish each and every one of you out there would take a listen.
Where can people find your work online?
KristiLeeNews.com is the easiest way, but you can also find it on iTunes and Stitcher, coming on Google Play soon. And the show is called Kristi Lee Uninterrupted. The reason for the title is because in the day, Mr. Griswold, Tom, would constantly interrupt me, and I never got to finish a news story or a thought, and so it's kind of a little dig at him. I hope he gets the joke and giggles a little bit, but it was meant in, good fun, not bad fun.
Isn't it weird when you sometimes work with people that aren't the easiest? I worked on a show in Cleveland, and basically all the dude did was just make fun of me on air. And I know Tom didn't do that, but isn't it weird sometimes when working with someone isn't the best if they have a big ego,
I was pretty blessed in that room because all four of us really did get along very, very well, and I never really experienced that. Tom Tom does pick on me and did pick on me a little bit. And I have to admit, there were a couple of days where I may have been crying at the vending machine, and Chick would come up and say, "You're taking it personally." Because I know Tom didn't mean it, and he didn't mean it to be personal. It was all for the show. It's characters on a show. It's like a play. You know, Tom plays sometimes the ass bag, and Bob was always the good cop, and Chick's always Chick, just being silly and funny, and I was supposed to be the straight girl with the news, and, you know, and we all had our role. And so what he would say to me, I knew, you know, some of it was a little hurtful, but I knew deep down he didn't mean it. It was just for the show. But, you know, after years and years and years, sometimes you do start to think, well, maybe I am, you know, not as bright, or maybe I am white trash, or maybe I am some of these things that he said. But deep down in my heart, I know that wasn't true, and I know he didn't really feel that way. But I understand. I have seen situations that you're talking about, and I have experienced guests who have been less than easy to work with. But as I told my young lady today, the little race driver, she's not little, she's 5'11", but as I told Christina, I said, you're not gonna like everybody. Not everybody's gonna like you. But the key is that you need to just make it as comfortable as possible. Just smile and move on. And just, you know, you can't engage it. You can't, you know, if somebody fires you up, you got to just smile and move on. You don't want to get involved in something like that. And I think that's how I've always been. I'm kind of one of those people that I would rather do anything than be in some kind of confrontation. So, you know, I always tried to smile and, you know, be nice and, you know, just move on.
I love your attitude. You literally just motivated me. You literally just pumped me up. Thank you for that.
Oh, good.
And thank you for coming on the show. It was a ton of fun having you on, and I would love to have you on again.
Anytime, Ryan. You know how to get a hold of me. I'm at your beck and call whenever you want to chat.
Sounds good. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Happy Hour. Happy Hour.